Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India Newshour, India's voice to the world. I'm Tanvi Taneja, coming up in the next hour. Prime Minister Narendra Modi accorded a grand ceremonial welcome at the Alvorada Palace in Brasília, receives a unique 114-horse welcome. Prime Minister Modi holds talks with Brazilian President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva in Brasília, focus on broadening of strategic partnership between the two countries in areas of mutual interest. No breakthrough yet for a ceasefire between Israel and Hamas, Qatar says need time after US President Donald Trump voiced optimism for a possible deal. Donald Trump slaps fresh tariffs on 14 nations with the highest rate of 40% imposed on Myanmar and Laos. New trade measures to take effect from August the 1st. And EU gives green light to Bulgaria to adopt the euro from January 1st next year. Bulgaria to become the 21st member of the single currency area. Prime Minister Narendra Modi is on a state visit to Brazil, the first by an Indian Prime Minister to Brazil in nearly 6 decades. He was accorded a grand ceremonial welcome at Brazil's presidential palace, the Alvorada Palace. A unique 114-horse welcome was accorded to Prime Minister Modi in Brasília. Prime Minister of India was warmly received by Brazilian President Lula da Silva and First Lady at the Alvorada Palace with a guard of honor. Thereafter, Prime Minister Modi is currently holding delegation-level talks with Brazilian President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva in Brasília. The talks are focusing on broadening of the strategic partnership between the two countries in areas of mutual interest, including trade, defense, energy, space, technology, agriculture, health, and people-to-people linkages. Several agreements are also expected to be signed after the talks between the two countries. And after the talks, Lula da Silva will host lunch in honor of the Indian Prime Minister. Prime Minister Modi is the first Indian Prime Minister in 57 years to visit Brazil on a state visit. Leaders of India and Brazil also held delegation-level talks in Brasília. The talks focused in areas of mutual interest, including trade, defense, energy, space technology, agriculture, health, and people-to-people linkages. The talks are currently ongoing. The bilateral relationship between India and Brazil is based on a common global vision, shared democratic values, and a commitment to foster economic growth with social inclusion for the welfare of the people of both countries. India and Brazil share close and multifaceted relations, which was elevated to a strategic partnership in 2006. Both countries cooperate closely in multilateral forums such as that of BRICS, IBSA, G20, G4, International Solar Alliance, Global Biofuel Alliance, Coalition for Disaster Resilient Infrastructure, United Nations, World Trade Organization, UNESCO, and World Intellectual Property Organization. As strategic partners, India and Brazil have several institutional mechanisms to coordinate bilateral relations, including the Joint Commission meeting at the level of foreign ministers, strategic dialogue between national security advisors, Foreign Office consultations at the secretary level, trade monitoring mechanism between commerce ministries. India and Brazil share robust and dynamic trade relations. Let's take a look at some of the key areas of trade ties between India and Brazil. In 2024-25, bilateral trade reached $12.2 billion, with Indian exports to Brazil at $6.7 billion and imports from Brazil at $5.43 billion. Key Indian exports to Brazil include processed petroleum products, agrochemicals, pharmaceuticals, engineering products, textured filament yarn and unwrought aluminium, while key Brazilian exports to India include crude oil, soybean oil, non-monetary gold, raw sugar, cotton, gums, wood, turpentine oil, chemicals and iron ore. The Indian investments in Brazil are estimated to exceed $6 billion, while Brazilian investments in India are around $1 billion.
There is a discussion between ICAR and Embrapa of Brazil for concluding an agreement on agricultural research. Besides that, let's keep in mind that while the two countries are superpowers in their own right for agriculture and agriculture export, we are not competing with each other.
Right.
So our trade basket, export basket is different from export basket of Brazil. So in that way, there is also a complementarity because Brazil has certain produces which we need and there are certain producers of India which they need.
India's strategic partnership with Brazil has continued to intensify with a number of high-level engagements, and defence ties have also deepened over the years. Defence cooperation agreement was signed in 2003 and ratified in 2006. It established the Joint Defence Committee, and 7 Joint Defence Committee meetings have been held so far. High-level defence exchanges and visits have occurred, with 14 major exchanges occurring in the last 2 years. This also included visits by the Indian Air Force Chief to Brazil and Brazilian Army, Navy and Air Force chiefs to India. Defence cooperation between the two nations included in defence training. So since 2007, 134 defence personnel, this includes 70 defence personnel from India and 64 from Brazil. They have been trained through short and long-term courses, joint military exercises and sailing regattas. Moreover, 2+2 political military dialogue was initiated in 2024 and strategic dialogue mechanism was established in 2006 for discussions on regional and global issues. Prime Minister Narendra Modi will embark on a landmark visit to Namibia on Wednesday, marking the final leg of his 5-nation tour and the first visit by an Indian Prime Minister to the African nation in nearly 3 decades. The visit is expected to further deepen ties between India and Namibia. DD India's Siddharth Bhardwaj reports from Namibia.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi is all set to visit Namibia in what is seen as a historic moment when it comes to the ties between both the countries. This is the 3rd ever prime ministerial visit happening after a gap of 27 years. Both India and Namibia have historical linkages, with India raising the matter of Namibia's independence in the year 1946 at the United Nations General Assembly. This visit by the Prime Minister will certainly open new areas of cooperation and will also strengthen the bilateral ties between both the countries.
India and Namibia share a bond forged in the struggle for freedom and nurtured through decades of partnership. India was among the first countries to support Namibia's liberation movement and to establish diplomatic ties after its independence in 1990. Over the years, the relationship between both the countries has grown through development partnerships, capacity building under the ITEC program, trade in minerals and pharmaceuticals, and a unique wildlife collaboration, the historic translocation of cheetahs from Namibia to India.
Namibia is rich in critical minerals, rare earths, and is also keen to engage with India in the field of agriculture and pharma. And in fact, in recent times, Namibia has discovered oil fields. And with this visit by the Prime Minister, it is also expected that a brief discussion on partnership when it comes to hydrocarbons will be there.
Prime Minister Modi's visit is expected to unlock new opportunities in areas such as hydrocarbons, rare earth minerals, education and health, among others. It also signals India's strong commitment to the global south. During the visit, Prime Minister Modi is expected to hold wide-ranging talks with Namibia's President Netumbo Nandi-Ndaitwah, the country's first woman head of state. A number of bilateral agreements are likely to be signed, with focus on energy, innovation and youth engagement. As India expands its footprint across Africa, this visit is both strategic and symbolic, reinforcing the values of equality, mutual respect, and shared development under the spirit of South-South cooperation. All eyes are now on Windhoek, as India and Namibia prepare to script a chapter in their vibrant partnership.
The relationship between India and Namibia has flourished over the years. And this indeed will be a significant visit by the Prime Minister, which will strengthen the ties between both the countries and will also open a new pathway when it comes to other areas of cooperation.
India's development partnership with Namibia is not just about trade and diplomacy, it's about sharing skills and knowledge. At the University of Namibia in Windhoek, a Centre of Excellence in IT has been set up with Indian support, and it is equipping young Namibians with the tools of the digital age. A report.
Capacity building play a crucial role when it comes to ties between two countries. I'm here in Namibia, in front of India Namibia Centre for Excellence in the field of information and technology. This centre is established with the assistance by the Government of India, where hundreds of students have already been trained in the field of IT, and many of them are already enrolled to learn new skills, to burnish their skills, and to fulfill the vision of Namibian government of e-governance and digital empowerment.
This center offers training in areas like software development, cybersecurity, and web design, all aimed at giving Namibian youth a competitive edge in the technology-driven world.
All these programs were set up with the assistance of the Indian government through SIDEC, because we basically implemented our programs in collaboration with SIDEC in Pune.
This is a very good collaboration with the Indian government to assist the Namibian government with ICT education.
The center is not just about building skills, it also creates opportunities for students from all walks of life to access quality IT training. It's part of India's focus on development that indirectly benefits people on the ground.
This center, we call it as India Namibia Center of Excellence in Information Technology, which is established at Namibia University of Science and Technology under the bilateral agreement between Government of India and Government of Namibia. The main aim of this center is capacity building in Namibia and also to boost the research capacity in Namibia. So using these capacity sector, we offer a few programs here. Many of the students, like I would say 500 plus students have been trained, and those are basically working professionals. We are assisting ministries and the government offices. They used to come here and upskill their knowledge.
How do you see the future of the center as more and more students they enroll in the center to learn in the field of IT?
I would say very, very important contribution from Government of India as well as, in assisting the Government of Namibia to build the capacity in Namibia. So definitely center will fly, and we will work and assist as much as possible.
So we got to know that the India Namibia Center of Excellence in Information Technology is not just a center. It's a vision where Namibians, youths and working professionals are being trained to work in the field of IT and also to burnish their skills, and which exactly is the demand of the future. With camera person Alok, this is Siddharth Bhardwaj reporting for TD India in Namibia.
And economic ties between India and Namibia continue to grow steadily. We take you inside a diamond processing unit run by an Indian company that's training and employing Namibians on the ground.
I am at Ankit Gems here in Namibia, the oldest factory of diamond cutting and polishing set up by an Indian. And just ahead of Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit, this facility is a clear example of how Indian investment is adding value locally and also strengthening the economic ties between the two countries.
Ankit Gems brought a game-changing model to Namibia's diamond sector. Process locally, employ locally. Today, hundreds of Namibians work here, many trained in high-precision diamond cutting. The Indian company's presence supports Namibia's long-standing vision, retain more value from its natural resources, and provide long-term employment to its citizens.
We are very happy here polishing diamonds, so it's been a really good experience.
I've been working as an export and import operator. Then now I'm doing traceability so that every stone that anybody from outside buys, they are able to trace it on our traceability and see from rough to finished polishing.
We are employed 130 people Namibian, and we are teaching them and then employed because there is no institute for diamond and anything, and we are looking forward better from government as well.
Namibia is among the world's top producers of gem quality diamonds. India, meanwhile, is the global hub for cutting and polishing. Together,
geopolitics and trade deals, economic challenges amid development, hard work and the path to prosperity. It's the economy always. Between walkers, money is what money does and says. Supply creates its own demand. Between the bulls pulls and bears tears. When supply chains globalization and India rises to the podium, we'll get you centered with the economic brief at 8 p.m. every Thursday on DD India.
Can the US launch a bombing campaign against Iran? The Philippines vessel.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India Newshour. I am Tanvi Taneja. US President Donald Trump reignited his trade war by threatening more than a dozen countries with higher tariffs on Monday. All strategic allies like South Korea and Japan are facing 25% Trump tariffs. But at the same time, Donald Trump took some of the edge off by signing an executive action to extend the date for all reciprocal tariffs to August the 1st. Reacting to this, the United Nations Trade Agency said that the new trade war deadline only prolongs instability and uncertainties for countries.
Of uncertainty over the tariff pause, US President Donald Trump unveiled a list of festive tariffs for 14 countries on Monday. The latest list has even put some of US oldest strategic allies like South Korea and Japan on notice. Unless they take more US exports and boost manufacturing in America. Tariff range from 25% to 40% are set to take effect on 1st August. Trump said he is ready to impose the duties for the most part, but added that negotiations were still open with some nations.
So South Korea, Japan should take it or leave it?
We're always subject to negotiate something that's fair, but we've talked to most of the countries, and pretty much they've had their way for many, many decades, as you know. And it was time that we just wanted fairness. This is not really equitable from our standpoint because it's just a small token by comparison to the damage that's been done over the years, but we had no other president that was willing to do this.
Apart from Japan and South Korea, Trump sent similar letters to the leaders of 12 other countries, including Tunisia, Malaysia, Kazakhstan, South Africa, Bosnia and Herzegovina, Indonesia, Serbia, Bangladesh, Cambodia, Thailand, Laos and Myanmar, informing them that tariffs ranging 25% to 40% would be charged starting next month. South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa opposed Trump's tariffs. In a post on the social media, he said that this 30% tariff is based on a particular interpretation of the balance of trade between South Africa and the United States. He further said 30% tariff figure is not an accurate representation of available trade data. Following the extension on the deadline till August 1, United Nations Trade Agency said that the decision to extend a negotiating deadline for tariff rates is creating uncertainty and instability for countries.
While the reciprocal tariffs will no longer go into effect tomorrow, as originally announced, but be extended for another few weeks until 1st of August, this move actually extends the period of uncertainty undermining long-term investment and business contracts and creating further uncertainty and instability. Economic uncertainty has real-world consequences, as we all know, on countries and on sectors.
While Japan is one of the largest exporters of cars, electronics and medical equipments to the US, President Trump's higher tariff could make these items more expensive to US consumers. Also, South Korea, which exports semiconductors, auto parts and ship, the Trump tariff may hit the tech and manufacturing sectors in a big way. The higher tariff slapped by the US will affect Thailand and export electronics, seafoods and machinery. Even Bangladesh and Cambodia are major suppliers of affordable clothing, leather products and furniture are likely to get hit by these stiff US tariffs. Bureau Report, DD India.
The Kremlin stated on Tuesday that it would take time to clarify what weapons the United States is supplying to Ukraine. This comes after US President Donald Trump said Washington would have to send more arms, primarily defensive ones, to Kiev. When asked about Trump's remarks, Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov said that there were many contradictory statements about US weapons supplies to Ukraine, though it was clear that European weapons deliveries were continuing.
Regarding the specifics of ongoing US military shipments to Ukraine, time is still required for definitive clarification. Currently, there is a lot of contradictory information.
Now, negotiations to halt the fighting in Gaza are gaining pace since Sunday, but a breakthrough remains elusive. Host nation Qatar has said the talks between Israel and Hamas need more time. As diplomatic efforts intensify, violence on the ground shows no signs of easing. Here's more.
The push for a Gaza ceasefire gained new momentum this week. Israel on Tuesday said that while gaps in the ceasefire talks remain, they can be bridged, but cautioned that it may take more than a few days to reach a final deal. Meanwhile, US President Donald Trump welcomed Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to the White House on Tuesday. The leaders discussed the situation in Gaza, with Trump stating that Hamas appears willing to agree to a truce with Israel.
I don't think so. They want it. They want to meet and they want to have that ceasefire. So I don't think so.
In Doha, Qatari officials mediating the indirect talks said negotiations are ongoing but need time. The discussions have now moved towards creating a framework for a possible agreement.
What is happening right now is that both delegations are in Doha. We are speaking with them separately on a framework for the talks. So talks have not begun as of yet, but we are talking to both sides over that framework, and we hope that we can establish a framework that will be very instrumental for the talks to succeed and take less time than it would otherwise.
On the ground, however, violence continues. 5 Israeli soldiers were killed and 2 others severely injured in northern Gaza on Tuesday. The casualties occurred when improvised explosive devices detonated in the Beth Hanun area. While diplomats work to finalize a fragile ceasefire, the human cost of the conflict remains starkly evident. Bureau Report, DD India.
The European Union has taken a significant step towards deeper integration. The EU has officially approved Bulgaria's adoption of the euro from January 1st, 2026, paving the way for the country to become the 21st member of the Eurozone. European Commissioner for Economy and Productivity, Valdis Dombrovskis, hailed the move, saying it will bring Bulgaria ever closer to the heart of Europe. Bulgaria's transition from its national currency, the lev, to the euro comes nearly 2 decades after the nation of 6.4 million joined the EU.
For Bulgaria, the euro will bring tangible benefits for citizens and businesses, lower transaction costs, protected savings, more investment, increased trade, lower interest rates, And a larger euro area means also more stability and greater international help for the euro.
Severe weather conditions are being reported across many parts of the world, including floods, wildfires, typhoons and heat waves. Countries from the United States to Asia and Europe are witnessing significant climate-related extreme weather events. A detailed report of our Weather Roundup. Climate change is now a reality and it's looking straight into our eyes. The most visible consequences is rise in the intensity and frequency of extreme weather events. In Texas, the death toll from severe flooding has now crossed 100. Rescue efforts continue as more rain threatens the already inundated region. US President Donald Trump is scheduled to visit the affected areas on Friday.
This flood was an unprecedented and devastating event, one that brought tremendous loss and hardship to our community.
In Europe, a massive wildfire in Spain forced over 18,000 residents to take shelter indoors in Tarragona province. Nearly 3,000 hectares have been scorched amid the country's hottest June on record. Meanwhile, in France, a fierce blaze has destroyed over 1,400 hectares and shut down a major highway. Evacuations are underway as hot and dry conditions worsen. Greece has partially shut the Acropolis as temperatures soar past 42 degrees Celsius during a heat wave. Emergency measures are in place to protect the public and workers. In the US, while the Texas floods are wreaking havoc, California's largest wildfire this year, the Madre Fire, is tearing through Los Padres National Forest. Over 1,400 firefighters are battling flames fueled by dry bush and extreme heat. China's eastern coast braces for Typhoon Danis. Firefighters in Zhejiang province are reinforcing homes as the storm approaches, expected to make landfall between Taichung and Ningde. Meanwhile, in the Himalayan region of Asia, a sudden flood swept away the friendship bridge between Tibet and Nepal. Experts suspect a glacial lake burst triggered the deluge. At least 18 are missing in Nepal and 11 on the Chinese side. In India, the monsoon is in full force. The Radhanagari Dam in Maharashtra has reached 80% of its capacity. Heavy rain in Kolkata caused severe waterlogging in the city on Tuesday. India's weather department predicted heavy rain in Goa, the Western Ghats in Maharashtra and parts of Gujarat in the coming days. From floods and fires to record heat, the rising toll of extreme weather underscores the urgent need for climate resilience and coordinated global action. Sarita's report, DD India. So that's all for this edition of DD India News Hour. Thank you for staying with us as we continue our coverage on Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit to Brazil and the upcoming visit to Namibia. That's all for now, but news and updates continue on our channel DD India. Stay tuned.
I love the atmosphere of the yatra. So many people come from each part of India, and it's like everybody, we're in the same community. No difference between people, and it's wonderful. We go all together for the same goal, to see the cave, to feel the atmosphere of the cave.
Geopolitics and trade deals. Economic challenges amid development. Hard work and the path to prosperity. It's the economy, always. Between walkers, money is what money does and says. Supply creates its own demand. Between the bulls pulls and bears tears. When supply chains globalization and India rises to the podium. We'll get you centered with the Economic Brief at 8 p.m. every Thursday on DD India.
Can the US launch a bombing campaign against Iran? The Philippines vessel suffered structural damage. The saga of child sexual abuse is the United States China's debt trap strategy. Truth is stranger than fiction. But sometimes hard to uncover. Trust us to tell the truth, unadulterated and pure, of every story that matters to you. You read between the lines, cut the clutter and connect the dots to get you the full picture. Watch Connecting the Dots at these times with me, only on DD India.
Jharkhand will mesmerize you with majestic nature, rich heritage and colorful culture.
Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India Newshour, India's voice to the world. I am Tanvi Taneja, coming up in the next hour. Prime Minister Narendra Modi accorded a grand ceremonial welcome at the Alvorada Palace in Brasília, receives a unique 114-horse welcome. Prime Minister Modi holds talks with Brazilian President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva in Brasília, focus on broadening of strategic partnership between the two nations in areas of mutual interest. No breakthrough yet for a ceasefire between Israel and Hamas. Qatar says need time after US President Donald Trump voiced optimism for a possible deal. Donald Trump slaps fresh tariffs on 14 nations with the highest rate of 40% imposed on Myanmar and Laos. New trade measures to take effect from 1st of August. And the EU gives green light to Bulgaria to adopt the euro from January 1st, 2026. Bulgaria to become the 21st member of the single currency area. Prime Minister Narendra Modi is on a state visit to Brazil, the first by an Indian Prime Minister to Brazil in nearly 6 decades. He was accorded a grand ceremonial welcome at Brazil's presidential palace, the Alvorada Palace. A unique 114-horse welcome was accorded to Prime Minister Narendra Modi in Brasília. The Prime Minister was warmly received by President Lula and First Lady at the Alvorada Palace with a guard of honor. Thereafter, Prime Minister Modi is holding delegation-level talks with Brazilian President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva in Brasília. The talks are focusing on broadening of the strategic partnership between the two countries in areas of mutual interest. Several agreements are also expected to be signed after the talks between the two countries. And after the delegation-level talks, Lula da Silva will host lunch in honor of Prime Minister Modi. Prime Minister Modi is the first Indian Prime Minister in 57 years to visit Brazil on a state visit. Leaders of India and Brazil are holding delegation-level talks in Brasília, the capital city of Brazil. The talks focused on areas of mutual interest, including trade, defense, energy, space technology, agriculture, health, and people-to-people linkages. The bilateral relationship between India and Brazil is based on a common global vision and shared democratic values and a commitment to foster economic growth with social inclusion for the welfare of the people of both countries. India and Brazil share close and multifaceted relations, which was elevated to a strategic partnership level in 2006. Both countries cooperate closely in multilateral forums such as that of BRICS, IBSA, G20, G4, International Solar Alliance, Global Biofuel Alliance, Coalition for Disaster Resilient Infrastructure, United Nations, World Trade Organization, UNESCO, and World Intellectual Property Organization. As strategic partners, India and Brazil have several institutional mechanisms to coordinate bilateral relations, including Joint Commission meeting at the level of foreign ministers, strategic dialogue between national security advisors, foreign office consultations at the secretary level, trade monitoring mechanism between commerce ministries. India and Brazil share robust and dynamic trade relations. Let's have a look at some of the key areas of trade ties. In 2024-25, bilateral trade reached $12.2 billion US, with Indian exports to Brazil at $6.77 billion US and imports from Brazil at $5.43 billion US. Key Indian exports to Brazil include processed petroleum products, agrochemicals, chemicals, pharmaceuticals, engineering products, textured filament yarn and unwrought aluminium, while key Brazilian exports to India include crude oil, soybean oil, non-monetary gold, raw sugar, cotton, gums, wood, turpentine oil, chemicals, and iron ore and concentrates. The Indian investments in Brazil are estimated to exceed $6 billion US, while Brazilian investments in India are around $1 billion US. So there is an immense potential for investments from the Brazilian side to India.
There is a discussion between ICAR and Embrapa of Brazil for concluding an agreement on agricultural research. Besides that, let's keep in mind that while the two countries are superpowers in their own right for agriculture and agriculture export, we are not competing with each other. Right. So our trade basket, export basket is different from export basket of Brazil. So in that way, there is also a complementarity because Brazil has certain produces which we need, and there are certain producers of India which they need.
India's strategic partnership with Brazil has continued to intensify, with a number of high-level engagements and defense ties deepened. Defense cooperation agreement was signed in 2003 and ratified in 2006. It established the Joint Defense Committee, JDC. 7 JDC or Joint Defense Committee meetings have been held so far. High-level defense exchanges and visits have occurred, with 14 major exchanges occurring in the last 2 years. This also included visits by an Indian Air Force chief to Brazil and Brazilian Army, Navy and Air Force chiefs to India. Defense cooperation between the two nations are included in defense training. Since 2007, 134 defense personnel, 70 from India, 64 from Brazil, have been trained through short and long-term courses. Joint military exercises and sailing regattas are also included as part of defense training. Moreover, 2+2 political military dialogue was initiated in 2024. The strategic dialogue mechanism was established in 2006 for discussions on regional and global issues. And in news just coming in, Brazil will confer its highest honor on Prime Minister Narendra Modi. It is called the Grand Collar of the National Order of Southern Cross. So this is the news just coming in. The Grand Collar of the National Order of the Southern Cross is the highest honor of Brazil Order of Chivalry, founded by Emperor Pedro, and the order commemorates the independence of Brazil and the coronation of Pedro. And Prime Minister Narendra Modi will be conferred with Brazil's highest honor. And Naruhito, the Emperor of Japan, was accorded this honor in 2025. And former President of Uruguay, José Mujica, was conferred this honor in 2024 along with Sergio Mattarella, President of Italy, in 2024. So Prime Minister Narendra Modi will be conferred with the highest national honor of Brazil, the Grand Collar of the National Order of Southern Cross. This is as part of his historic state visit to Brazil. You're watching the India Newshour, still to come on the show. More than 100 killed in Texas floods as search and rescue enters the 5th day.
I love the atmosphere of the yatra. So many people come from each part of India, and it's like everybody, we're in the same community. No difference between people, and it's wonderful. We go all together for the same goal, to see the cave, to feel the atmosphere of the cave.
Geopolitics and trade deals. Economic challenges amid development. Hard work and the path to prosperity. It's the economy always. Between walkers, money is what money does, and say.
Statements coming from India and Brazilian
nas áreas de segurança pública, energia, agricultura, transformação digital e propriedade intelectual. Neste momento, 3 acordos serão assinados na presença dos 2 chefes de Estado. O ministro de Estado da Justiça e Segurança Pública, Ricardo Lewandowski, e o ministro dos Negócios Estrangeiros da República da Índia, Subramanian Dejanshankar, assinam o acordo sobre cooperação no combate ao terrorismo internacional e ao crime organizado transnacional. O ministro de Estado de Minas e Energia, Alexandre Silveira, e o ministro dos Negócios Estrangeiros da República da Índia, Subramanian Jaishankar, assinam memorando de entendimento sobre cooperação na área de energia renovável. A ministra de Estado da Gestão e Inovação em Serviços Públicos, Esther Dweck, e o ministro dos Negócios Estrangeiros da República da Índia, Subramanian Jaishankar, assinam um memorando de entendimento sobre cooperação na área de compartilhamento de soluções digitais bem-sucedidas, implementadas em escala populacional para transformação digital. Neste momento, o presidente da República, Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva, condecora o primeiro-ministro da Índia, Narendra Modi, com o grande colar da Ordem Nacional do Cruzeiro do Sul. A Ordem Nacional do Cruzeiro do Sul foi instituída originalmente no ano de 1822 pelo imperador Dom Pedro I e restabelecida pelo decreto número 22.165, de 5 de dezembro de 1932. Trata-se da mais alta distinção honorífica brasileira concedida a cidadãos estrangeiros que tenham prestado relevantes serviços ao Brasil ou que se tenham tornado dignos de especial distinção por suas qualidades, méritos ou virtudes cívicas. Senhoras e senhores, com a palavra, o presidente da República, Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva.
Eu quero, em primeiro lugar, dizer para a imprensa brasileira e para os nossos convidados da minha alegria de estar participando nesse evento em que o Brasil recebe como chefe de Estado o primeiro-ministro Narendra Modi. É muito importante que as pessoas compreendam que um país mega diverso como o Brasil tem a obrigação de ter uma relação política, cultural, uma relação econômica e comercial com outro país mega diverso como a Índia, dando a maior importância pelo significado que a Índia tem, não apenas por ser um país de 1,4 bilhão de habitantes, mas por ser um país democrático, um país que trabalha pela paz e um país que eu passei a admirar muito mais desde que eu li um livro romanceado de 2 jornalistas chamado, que contava a história do Gandhi. O livro me parece que era Essa Noite e a Liberdade. Era um livro extraordinário que me fez conhecer um pouco a história da Índia, me fez conhecer um pouco o quanto é importante a cultura da paz, o quanto é importante a cultura da não violência e, lamentavelmente, nós estamos vendo esses ensinamentos que Gandhi passou para a humanidade sendo jogado fora, porque hoje o mundo está vivendo um período de conflito, possivelmente tanto maior do que antes da Segunda Guerra Mundial. O mundo está gastando com armas aquilo que não tem vontade de gastar com alimentos, aquilo que não tem vontade de gastar com a luta contra a desigualdade dos povos, a desigualdade de raça, a desigualdade de gênero, a desigualdade de alimentos, a desigualdade na educação, a desigualdade na hora da saúde e a desigualdade até na escolha do berço em que nasce. Porque, lamentavelmente, não existe nenhuma explicação para que o mundo, com o conhecimento genético e tecnológico que tenha, com a quantidade de alimento que produz, ainda ter 730 milhões de pessoas que vão dormir toda noite sem ter o que comer. É muito grave que o mundo que ainda não cumpriu os compromissos de atender, sabe, os recursos necessários para que a gente possa inventar os desastres climáticos que estão acontecendo, tenha tanto dinheiro para investir em guerra como no ano passado, quando o mundo gastou 2 trilhões e 700 bilhões em armas e não gastou quase nada para cuidar do clima. É com essa alegria que eu posso dizer que, além do primeiro-ministro Narendra Modi, eu estou aqui com a minha querida companheira Dilma Rousseff, que hoje não está aqui como ex-presidenta, não está aqui como mineira, não está aqui como gaúcha, ela está aqui como presidenta do novo Banco dos BRICS, o novo querido NB, que é um banco que surgiu para dar ao mundo a certeza de que é possível ter no mundo um sistema financeiro que tenha política de financiamento em que não tenha como objetivo principal a austeridade contra aqueles que pedem empréstimos, mas que tenha a bondade de entender que as pessoas não podem pegar o empréstimo para afundar os países, mas sim para salvar os países. Obrigado pela presença, companheira Dilma. Obrigado, ministros brasileiros. Obrigado, ministros e companheiros da delegação indiana. E obrigado, os companheiros da imprensa brasileira e da imprensa indiana. É uma enorme satisfação receber esse, que eu nem trato mais de primeiro-ministro, eu trato de meu amigo primeiro-ministro da Índia, companheiro Modi. Dos países superlativos como a Índia e o Brasil, não pode, sinceramente, 2 países superlativos como a Índia e o Brasil não pode permanecer distantes. A solidez das nossas democracias, a diversidade das nossas culturas e a pujança das nossas economias nos atraem. Estive à frente da celebração da parceria estratégica Brasil-Índia em 2006. Muita coisa mudou desde então. As ameaças à paz, à prosperidade e ao planeta se avolumam. Reiterei ao ministro Modi minhas condolências pelo recente atentado em Caxemira, reafirmando o nosso repúdio a todas as formas de terrorismo. A negociação de um cessar-fogo entre Índia e Paquistão é exemplo de sensatez para o mundo. Como membro do G20 e dos BRICS, atuamos em defesa do multilateralismo e em prol de uma governança global mais inclusiva. O primeiro-ministro Modi afirmou corretamente na curva dos BRICS, no Rio de Janeiro, que é impossível rodar um software do século XXI em velhas máquinas de escrever do século XX. É inaceitável que países do porte da Índia e do Brasil não ocupem assentos permanentes no Conselho de Segurança da ONU. Somos aliados naturais na resposta a um dos maiores desafios do nosso tempo, a erradicação da fome e da pobreza e o enfrentamento à mudança do clima. Agradeci ao primeiro-ministro Modi a participação indiana na Aliança Global contra a Fome e a Pobreza. Nossa pecuária deve muito à Índia. 90% do rebanho zebuíno brasileiro é resultado de 60 anos de intensa cooperação bilateral em melhoramento genético. O estado natal do primeiro-ministro Gujarat é de onde provém essas matrizes. O acordo entre a Embrapa e o Conselho Indiano de Pesquisa Agrícola estimulará projetos de inovação na produção de alimentos. Chegaremos à COP30 como líderes da transição energética justa. Mostraremos que é possível aliar redução das emissões de gás de efeito estufa e crescimento econômico e inclusão social. Em agosto, o Brasil e a ONU realizarão em Nova Delhi a segunda rodada de balanço ético global para mobilizar
बिलियन की साझेदारी कठिन नहीं है। हम मिलकर भारत मर्कोसूर प्रेफरेंशियल ट्रेड एग्रीमेंट के विस्तार पर भी काम करेंगे। फ्रेंड्स, ऊर्जा के क्षेत्र में हमारा सहयोग निरंतर बढ़ रहा है। पर्यावरण और क्लीन एनर्जी दोनों देशों की मुख्य प्राथमिकता है। इस क्षेत्र में सहयोग बढ़ाने के लिए आज जो समझौता किया गया है उससे हमारे ग्रीन गोल्स को नई दिशा और गति मिलेगी। इस वर्ष ब्राजील में होने जा रही COP30 बैठक के लिए मैं राष्ट्रपति लूला को शुभकामनाएं देता हूं। फ्रेंड, रक्षा के क्षेत्र में बढ़ता सहयोग हमारे गहरी आपसी विश्वास का प्रतीक है। हम अपने रक्षा उद्योगों को आपस में जोड़ने के प्रयास जारी रखेंगे। आर्टिफिशियल इंटेलिजेंस और सुपर कंप्यूटर में हमारा सहयोग बढ़ रहा है। यह समावेशी विकास और ह्यूमन सेंट्रिक इनोवेशन की हमारी एक जैसी सोच का प्रमाण है। ब्राजील में यूपीआई के एडॉप्शन पर भी दोनों पक्ष मिलकर काम कर रहे हैं। हमें डिजिटल पब्लिक इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर और स्पेस जैसे क्षेत्रों में भारत का सफल अनुभव ब्राजील के साथ साझा करने में खुशी होगी। कृषि और पशुपालन क्षेत्र में हमारा सहयोग दशकों पुराना है। अब हम एग्रीकल्चरल रिसर्च और फूड प्रोसेसिंग पर भी मिलकर काम करेंगे। स्वास्थ्य के क्षेत्र में भी हम अपना विन विन सहयोग बढ़ा रहे हैं। हमने ब्राजील में आयुर्वेद और ट्रेडिशनल मेडिसिन के विस्तार पर बल दिया। फ्रेंड, पीपल टू पीपल टाइज हमारे संबंधों का महत्वपूर्ण स्तंभ है। दोनों देशों में स्पोर्ट्स में गहरी रुचि भी हमें आपस में जोड़ती है। हम चाहते हैं कि बिना वीजा काउंटर की लंबी लाइन के भारत और ब्राजील के संबंध कार्निवल जितने रंगीन हो, फुटबॉल जितने जोशीले और सांबा की तरह दिलों को जोड़ते जाएं। इसी भावना से हम दोनों देशों के लोगों को, विशेष रूप से टूरिस्ट, स्टूडेंट्स, स्पोर्ट्स पर्सन्स और बिजनेसमैन के बीच संपर्क सुगम बनाने के लिए प्रयास करेंगे। फ्रेंड, वैश्विक स्तर पर भारत और ब्राजील ने सदैव करीबी समन्वय के साथ काम किया है। दो बड़े लोकतांत्रिक देशों के रूप में हमारा सहयोग न केवल ग्लोबल साउथ बल्कि पूरी मानवता के लिए प्रासंगिक है। हम मानते हैं कि ग्लोबल साउथ की चिंताओं और प्राथमिकताओं को वैश्विक मंचों पर रखना हमारा नैतिक दायित्व है। आज जब विश्व तनाव और अनिश्चितता के दौर से गुजर रहा है, मेरे मित्र ने बड़े विस्तार से बताया है, मैं इसको रिपीट नहीं कर रहा हूं। भारत ब्राजील की यह साझेदारी स्थिरता और संतुलन का एक अहम स्तंभ है। हम एकमत है कि सभी विवादों का समाधान डायलॉग और डिप्लोमेसी के माध्यम से होना चाहिए। आतंकवाद के खिलाफ लड़ाई पर हमारी सोच समान है। जीरो टॉलरेंस एंड जीरो डबल स्टैंडर्ड्स। हमारा स्पष्ट मत है कि आतंकवाद पर दोहरे मापदंडों का कोई स्थान नहीं है। हम आतंकवाद और आतंकवाद के समर्थकों का कठोर विरोध करते हैं। एक्सेलेंसी, एक बार फिर इस सर्वोच्च राष्ट्रीय सम्मान के लिए और आपकी मित्रता के लिए मैं 140 करोड़ भारतवासियों की ओर से आपका बहुत बहुत आभार व्यक्त करता हूं। मैं आपको भारत यात्रा करने का निमंत्रण भी देता हूं। धन्यवाद। मुइतो ओब्रिगादो।
Senhoras e senhores, está encerrada esta cerimônia.
So, India and Brazil solidifying their partnership, also emphasizing Global South unity there, a warm handshake after the press statements and key MOUs exchanged there. An MOU on renewable energy, cooperation against terrorism, and another one on digital solutions has been signed. And of course, Prime Minister Narendra Modi being conferred with the highest honor of Brazil, the National Order of the Southern Cross, for which Prime Minister Narendra Modi thanked President Lula da Silva and Brazilian government and its people. Well, with this, Prime Minister Modi has been conferred with 26 such global recognitions. We know he got the highest honor earlier in his five-nation tour in Ghana and Trinidad and Tobago as well. And to just sum up what the two leaders have just said, very important statements coming from Brazilian President Lula da Silva and, of course, Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Brazilian President Lula da Silva said that it is sad that the world can invest in multiple wars raging in different parts of the world, but cannot invest in reducing hunger, poverty, malnutrition, food insecurity. So Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Brazilian President Lula da Silva solidifying their partnership. President Lula said that India is a reliable partner working for global peace. He in fact mentioned of India's freedom struggle. He mentioned of Freedom at Midnight, the book, and said that he has learnt the story of non-violence being advocated by father of India, Mahatma Gandhi. Further, he said that he has no hesitation in calling Prime Minister Narendra Modi a great friend. And he said that India and Brazil are close partners, and Brazil is indebted to India for gifting them their indigenous cows and animals which ushered in their white revolution. PM Modi on his part thanked Brazil for conferring its highest honor upon him. He called Brazilian President Lula da Silva as the chief architect of the strategic partnership between India and Brazil. And very important to note, the two leaders have set a target of $20 billion bilateral trade. Prime Minister Modi used the metaphor of cricket, for India, football for Brazil, to symbolify, to signify the passion of the two countries that attracts them together. Prime Minister Modi expressed that work is ongoing on the India-Mercosur preferential trade agreement, and he mentioned of various key areas of collaboration: energy, artificial intelligence, supercomputers, to name a few. And Prime Minister Modi also wished best to Brazil to host the upcoming COP presidency in November this year. And he also said that work is ongoing in adopting Unified Payment Interface, UPI, in Brazil. So that was the gist of the press statements that we were all standing by from India and Brazil. Prime Minister Narendra Modi is expected to be part of the official lunch that will be hosted in his honor by Brazilian President Lula da Silva. So we'll keep getting you updates from Brazil. That's all for this edition of DD India Newshour. Thanks for tuning in. Namaskar.